The ending just left me kind of going, oh, what? I had high hopes. This is coming out. Did it already? Nope. Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' books I have read recently, or DNF'd recently. First up is a reread, as I've had many of this year, but I'm doing the World of Elon read-along, and we started with Legends of the First Empire, or at least I started with Legends of the First Empire. And several other people did, but some are starting with Rhaeria and kind of going in publication order instead, which is fine. And this one was in April, right? What month are we even in? Yes. This one was the one for April. This is book 4 of the series, and I have read this before. How many times have I read it now? Let me double check. Because the first 3 books I've read one more time than the last 3 books. It's a 6-book series. This one I think I've only read twice now. But let's freaking see. Oh no, I have read it 3 times. Okay. I read it in 2019, 2021, and then 2025. Cool. Okay. Obviously, can't really say too much about the actual plot of this one, but this series, you've heard me talk about it so many times, but it's adult epic fantasy. It's kind of what I consider more classic fantasy as far as the world building, the creatures, the types, the races of creatures we have here, dwarves, elves, humans, giants, goblins, etc. We are following a cast of characters throughout this series as the humans and the elves are going to war with one another. In the very beginning, in Age of Myth, humans think that elves are gods, and then they discover that this is perhaps not the case, and things go from there. This one is not one of my favorites of the series. I think this one and Age of Swords are probably my least favorite, I think, but I still gave it 4 stars originally, and I'm keeping that rating. So it's Michael J. Sullivan, it's these characters. I love them regardless, but it's just a little bit like slower, and there's some time jumps in that one as well. Then I continued on my literary fiction kick I have been on, and I picked up Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance by Alison Espach, I'm not sure. She's the author of The Wedding People that you might have seen going around. I am waiting for a hold to come in from the library for that, either on ebook or physical. We'll see which one comes in first. It's a long wait. It's a long wait. My God. The TLDR here is that it's literary fiction. We're dealing with grief and loss. We're following a girl named Sally, and she has an older sister, Kathy, right? Yes, Kathy. And there's this boy, Billy Barnes, that they have a crush on when they're like in elementary school. They're like, oh, Billy, he's like our little crush. And then as they get older, the older sister, Kathy, becomes involved with Billy and is dating Billy. And then tragedy strikes, and Sally is kind of dealing with this tragedy, and the whole family is dealing with it and trying to process and move through it. And Billy is as well. You can imagine it's something relating to the sister. As per usual with literary fiction, there were definitely a lot of moments where it was a bit too detached and existential. People behaving in ways that like people don't behave in real life, talking to each other, like dialogue that just doesn't feel like how real people speak, but it's more how like manic pixie dream girls in movies speak. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that type of shit where you're like, okay, deep, profound thoughts all the time. So it was a little bit much occasionally for my personal taste, but at the same time, this was simultaneously heartbreaking in moments and then also hilarious. Like really funny. The authorial voice was just right up my alley, and I kind of couldn't put it down. Let me see if there's any non-spoilery. Oh, this one I just personally related to. She's talking about when she's a kid, and her and her sister would pick out their clothes the night before and like lay out what clothes they wanted to wear to school. But then inevitably in the morning, they would like want to change their minds. And She says, we changed our minds about what to wear, which you said, and she's talking to her sister, which you said we were allowed to do, and yet I felt bad for the rejected clothes all during breakfast. Sometimes apologized to them before we ran to the bus. When you heard me doing this, you laughed. Sally, they're just shoes, you said. It's just a shirt. But I couldn't stop feeling that they were more than that everything was secretly alive, which was why I also said goodbye to the radiators before we left. And oh my God, I can relate to this. I'm sure so many people can, but like, especially I think being a kid with like an overactive imagination. And my stuffed animals, I legit thought they had feelings. If I kicked a rock while I was walking, I would get like emotionally attached to the rock and have to keep kicking it along with me or picking it up. And so I had all these rocks in a little box that like weren't even very cool. I just felt personally attached to them like a weirdo. So I related to that. And then she's talking about one time when her sister, as she was getting older and stuff, and trying to be like trendy and dressing how the other girls in school dressed. And they were going to the pool, and she left her denim shorts like unbuttoned and folded down, like over her bathing suit. And her mom was like, button your pants, whatever. And then she's like, I refuse to ask my own daughter to button her own pants. That's supposed to be a given. That's supposed to be something your child just does. By then, she didn't even sound like she was talking to us anymore. She sounded as if she was talking to the company who manufactured us. That made me chuckle. This went too... again, she's talking to her sister throughout. Like, she's narrating this to her sister. And then she goes, things Dad said at dinner in August. Did you know that Lewis and Clark had to build their own canoes when they were already on their expedition? Can you imagine? Did you know that John Adams and Thomas Jefferson died on the exact same day, July 4th, 1826? Richard, please, Mom said, as if it was rude to talk about America during dinner. Just shit like that, man. It cracked me up. But yeah, it was also very, very touching. And with the characters, and again, a lot of literary fiction I find does this. We have characters that I just can never relate to or understand with this whole, I'm just letting life happen around me and to me without really feeling any kind of connection to anything, and thinking and saying super weird, random, deeply profound things that nobody actually says out loud in real life like this so frequently. And like thinking in the moment with such profound clarity about something that I'm just like, you didn't think that. Maybe later reflecting upon it, writing in your journal, you could have this thought, but like in that moment, it didn't stop. No, it didn't. Like right here, it's graduation and she's talking about her boyfriend she had, her like first boyfriend. And he gave his little speech. He's like president of the student body or something, and he gave a little speech. Even from this distance, I could see his smile. It was his how'd I do smile. What did you think about my speech on the rising cost of oil as it related to China's economy, as it related to surmounting personal obstacles in my pre-adult life? By the time I hugged Peter, I was certain he had nothing at all to do with me anymore. Like, no, you didn't. You didn't think that in that moment. You're an 18-year-old girl. You weren't like, he has nothing to do with me anymore. Like, what? No, you weren't. Stop. It's just, existential writing stuff. And this is coming from someone with a Bachelor of Arts in writing, and I'm very familiar with these types of characters and stories and writing, and I do appreciate it on some level, but I just can't help that it always sticks out like a sore thumb to me. Like, I notice it, and I'm just like, okay, no, you didn't. And maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe there are truly people out here like this having these, like, deep, profound, introspective thoughts very clearly like this. Maybe so. And maybe unlike this main character who at some point talks about not having enough of a center, maybe I have too much of a center. I don't know. But yeah, despite these usual complaints that I do have with a lot of literary fiction, with this existentialism of it all and whatever, I did still really enjoy the writing, like I was saying. And especially a topic like this, when we're dealing with like deep loss and grief, and if you manage to make me laugh, intermingled with making me tear up or get choked up about things, I mean, I'm excited to read more from this author for sure. And for the plot, I felt like this book, again, it's literary fiction dealing with grief and loss, which like pretty much all of it that I've been reading recently is that, and that's what a lot of it is. But It was far less interested in like having a plot than it was about being a character study. The plot is really just this family processing their grief and this new dynamic of their family, and then also with how the main character is like deeply affected by it. I will say also the ending just left me kind of going, oh, what? But what? I needed like some kind of confirmation about what happens, because it seems like we might have left off with the main character like completely changing her life trajectory and her life plan. But maybe not, but maybe, and I don't know, I wanted to know. I ended up giving this 4.25 stars. Quite enjoyed it, like I said. I will definitely read more from this author, and I, like, couldn't put it down. I blew through this thing. Oh, I totally forgot about this one. I used an Audible credit a while ago to get this audiobook, and then I just randomly was like, fuck it, let me start it. Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, and I listened to 50% of this before I DNF'd. I wasn't having a bad time by any means, but the writing style just wasn't really standing out to me, and there's like kind of a little mystery thing happening. And this one we're following an elderly woman who works the night shift as like the cleaning person, janitor at this little local, what is it called? Aquarium. I was gonna say museum. That was incorrect. At an aquarium, and there is an octopus there, or a giant squid, one of the two. And his name is Marcellus, and he's a sneaky little guy, and he sneaks out of his freaking tank sometimes, and she catches him, and then just like goes along with it and like lets him continue getting out. Which I found that to be odd. I just was like, I don't buy it. I don't believe that if you found this fucking octopus outside of its tank in the break room eating food out of the trash, that you wouldn't fucking alert someone. Because I would be like concerned for its safety. You know what I mean? Like, what if something happens to this thing while it's out? Like, she came across it and it was like all tangled up in cords and she had to like help it get out. And then she just keeps it quiet and like does, and this is in the very beginning, like literally the first couple of chapters. But yeah, she just like doesn't alert anyone. And she's like, it'll be our little secret. And the octopus is fine and everything. But I'm like, she doesn't know that. She doesn't know he's always going to be fine. Like, I just find this irresponsible as fuck that you wouldn't make someone aware of this. But sure, whatever. And then we are also following this kid. He's younger. Well, he's like 25 to 29. He's in his like mid to late 20s. And he's just kind of like a fuck up a little bit. But he's trying to find his biological father. All right. And there's like a secret, a reveal that I figured out. I was like, I just know. And it was on a situation where it kind of ruined it. Like I realized what was keeping me reading it or listening to it was I want to know who, like what this is. I want to know the answer to this question. And then as soon as I figured it out, I didn't care anymore. I was just like, okay, well, now I know. And I went and looked at some reviews after I decided to DNF, as I am wont to do, like I always say. And yeah, I was right. And I don't know, I just wasn't that into it. Basically, that's what it boils down to. It's very popular. Most people love it. It had so many fucking 4.5, 5-star reviews of people being like, I was sobbing my eyes out uncontrollably. Oh my God. Like, ripped my heart out. Oh my God. Such a sweet story. Such a lovely story. It just wasn't hitting like that with me. So, which could have been the audiobook, because I am not a big audiobook reader. So maybe that was kind of why. I don't know. Take my opinion with a grain of salt, though, if you have this book on your TBR. And if you've already read it and you love it, like, you know, I'm so sorry. I had high hopes. Then I picked up a NetGalley e-arc of Harmattan Season by Tochi Onyebuchi. This is coming out. Did it already? Nope, May 27th, so soon. I'm recording on May 11th. By the time this comes out, it might be out already. Who's to say? This is shorter. It's 240 pages, this edition that I have here. And the synopsis, it is fantasy, adult, but it's also like kind of a gritty noir detective story. Really? with fantasy elements. That's how I would categorize it, because that's more like the vibe. The vibe is very detective, noir, the dialogue, just the atmosphere of it all, but it's set in like this West African inspired world. I also, okay, the world building threw me off in this a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself, but because we have French, like French colonizers, and it says, I'm pretty sure it says West Africa in the book, maybe? But then I don't know that the country was ever actually mentioned, and I saw some people talking about it that they were also a little thrown by it, that we have like some real world elements of like France colonizing countries, but then we have this like fantasy West African inspired country, I'm pretty sure. At any rate, the synopsis: when a bleeding woman stumbles onto his doorway only to vanish just as quickly, Booba reluctantly finds himself enmeshed in the secrets of a city boiling on the brink of violence. The French occupiers are keen to keep the peace at any cost, and the indigenous Dugolan have long been shattered into restless factions, vying for a chance to reclaim their lost heritage and abilities. As each hard-won clue reveals horrifying new truths, Booba may have to carve out parts of himself he's long kept hidden and decide what he's willing to offer next. So I gave this 3.25 stars, and it's not a higher rating, mostly because I should have known better. I should have known that this wouldn't really be a book for me. I think it was just a case of seeing it on NetGalley and just not reading the synopsis carefully enough. I'd read Beast Made of Night by Tochi Onyebuchi years ago, and I actually didn't love it because of the ending mostly. But the writing, it was like young adult, just fantasy. Such a cliffhanger of an ending, but like with nothing resolved. Like, nothing from the first book was resolved, and then we were just, like, in the middle of an action scene, we stopped the book, and whatever. And it kind of, like, made me mad, which is petty. But I also just didn't love the writing all that much. But this one just sounded intriguing initially, and really solid thematic work, in my opinion. Definitely dealing with a lot of, like, cultural identity, racial identity. Our main character is biracial, and he can pass as French, but he also can kind of go amongst the indigenous people and like fit in there as well, but like sometimes not, depending on the situation and whatnot. And there's a lot of conversation about that and him kind of coming to terms with some things, and heavily talking about colonialism from the synopsis, you can probably imagine. And I thought all of that was done well. And if you like a kind of gritty, noir, detective vibe, and you are interested in, you know, speculative fiction, fantasy works set somewhere other than medieval Europe style worlds, then definitely check this one out. And it's shorter too. It wasn't exactly my taste as far as the atmosphere and the vibe is really all that it was. So I liked it. You know, I'm not mad that I read it. Just not exactly the thing for me. Then, from the library, I had grabbed The Wind on Her Tongue by Anita Kopacz. This is book 2 of the Three Waters trilogy, Daughter of the Three Waters trilogy. And from my understanding of what I saw online, they're kind of companion novels. That might be false. I don't know. If you've read this series, let me know if that's horribly wrong, and if maybe that's part of why I didn't love this and I DNF'd at 21%. It's very short. I could have pushed through. The synopsis, or the blurb, I'll give you here. The Storygraph AI preview says, readers who enjoy immersive mythic tales blending African spirituality with historical struggles against oppression will find this book captivating. And then the blurb, in this lyrical and stirring companion to the spellbinding Shallow Waters, Oya, the Yoruban deity of the weather, is brought to life during 1870s America. Perfect for fans of Children of Blood and Bone and Black Sun. So yeah, and I quit at 21%. Just not any real reason. If this sounds intriguing to you, pick it up. There wasn't anything like wrong with it. Nothing that seemed like annoying to me. It was mostly just I wasn't connecting to the characters. I think just the pacing of it For such a short book, it felt like kind of slow, and I don't know, I wasn't getting immersed in the story the way I wanted to be, you know? The characters are fine and everything, and like the plot was intriguing, but there wasn't that zhuzh. Love the cover too, though. It's so pretty. Oh my god. Just not for me. And that is all I will talk about for today. Let me know if you have read any of these or if you are interested in reading any of them. Or of course, you can leave an emoji to say hello, make your presence known if you'd like. And as always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.